Hey everyone! So as I mentioned, this is the first sketchbook tour that I have ever done, and it's a little nerve-wracking because I don't know, one of the reasons that it took me so long to actually get into a sketchbook practice is that it's it's kind of daunting, and there are so many beautiful sketchbooks online, so even when I was trying to learn about all the different techniques you can use and the different sketchbooks, the different materials, it's a lot, and a lot of people have been um, working in their sketchbooks for a long, long time and have developed a style, developed a voice, just like we do when we're painting on other substrates, on canvases or paper. And I'm really comfortable after, more than 20 years of painting on large surfaces or on paper. But something about being inside a little book was really holding me back. And so anyway, I have been sketching a lot more than I ever have in my life. And it really has become a regular practice over the last probably 9 months now. But I want to pre-warn you that I have no particular style in my sketchbook. I'm trying new things out all the time, which is what sketchbooks are for. It's not a thing of beauty. It's not a cohesive kind of substrate for my work. And so I feel like I'm apologizing in advance. But really, I just want to show you through, because if you are also just beginning to work in your sketchbook and you're holding yourself back because you're trying to make every page amazing, then maybe this will help you. So at the moment, I'm working with a lot of different sketchbooks. I've collected a bunch over the years, and I've really just started using them in the last year. And so I have lots of different sketchbooks, and I do tend to jump from one to another. I take them with me when I'm traveling, but sometimes I'll take different sizes depending on where I'm going. And so I tend to not have everything together in one sketchbook. I move from sketchbook to sketchbook. So this one is a Strathmore, and it's one of my favorites. I actually really like it's not a hardcover. And I kind of like that, especially when I'm traveling, because it's not as heavy as some of the others. And the paper is beautiful. I'm not sure, it's quite thick. I'm not sure what thickness it is. Maybe it will say here. Yeah, okay. So yes, it's a 400 series watercolor paper. So this is actually thicker paper than I would normally use to paint on. I usually use 300 GSM. This is 400. So it will take a lot of material. It will take all kinds of things that you throw at it, and it's watercolor paper, so it's fabulous with the acrylic inks, which I usually work with. So as I mentioned, I'm watching lots of YouTube artists, following lots of sketchbook artists, and trying to figure out all of the things that I can use within my sketchbook, what goes with what kind of techniques resonate with me, how to bring my creative voice into my sketchbook, but while exploring new things as well. So first page, I just used as a tester page. And I think that's one way of getting over the fear of beginning in your sketchbook. I remember having a beautiful sketchbook once, taking it to Europe with me, and it was quite expensive, and doing the first page, doing a sketch at the airport that was just terrible, and that was it. I put the sketchbook away. I felt like I'd ruined it, and I didn't do anything else the whole rest of the trip. I think it was a 4-month trip. So that's really silly now that I look back at it. So I think just starting off, being not attached to your first page at all, just starting off having your first page as a place to, test things out, make marks, try out materials, and test colors, swatch colors and things like that. And that way you'll just release yourself from any kind of attachment to having something amazing on that page, okay? So, second page, again, this one was I was following Sarah Dyer for a while, probably for about 6 months on Patreon. And I tend to follow somebody for a while and then, if I haven't been able to catch up with them for a bit, or if something else shiny catches my eye, I might move over to somebody else's Patreon page for a bit. But Sarah has some great things on her page. She has a monthly Zoom where they do timed sketches. So this one looks like it was quite a quick sketch. And so she'll have up reference photos, and we're all sketching. There might be 3-minute sketches, or 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute. This page was just using the leftover paints from this little session. And this was, I think I did this as a YouTube video. So that was using one of the beautiful people I follow on Instagram. I believe the account is House of Curiosities, and she just has the best style. So this was just using inks and a little bit of acrylic. This again was going back to, as I said, I jump all over the place. So I think this was the same day. Yeah, same day on the Sarah Dyer Zoom call where we were just sketching people in cafes, and this one as well was also on that day there. This one was done also from an Instagram photo. So, I mean, Instagram is an endless source of reference and inspiration. If you do post anything that you sketch when you've actually been inspired by someone on Instagram, it's always fun to kind of let them know as well and give them a shout out. That was just using up paint again. This one was again from that same Zoom call with Sarah Dyer. And, you know, again, like we just had very little time. Maybe that might have been a 10-minute sketch. This one was actually a fun little exercise I did at a workshop where we had created lots of handmade papers using stencils and just trying out different kinds of mark making techniques. And then we had torn up all of those handmade papers and created a collage of them in our sketchbooks, and then added some marks over the top as well. I really like the way that one has turned out. Again, another day during a Zoom call with Sarah Dyer, and I've become a little bit fascinated with boats since then, and I'm really excited to kind of go to some places in Europe this year where I can sketch boats. This one actually looks like it was in Amsterdam, which we have been to Amsterdam. But yeah, this was a fun one to do. And these ones also. So I guess here I was learning also about simplicity, and that's when I started to become quite aware that it's okay to leave things out, that you don't have to capture every detail in a sketch in your sketchbook. So for example, you know, if there was a whole village of houses up here on the bluff, it's okay to just take 3 and just put them in a very small way. So really just, you know, learning. There are people who have mastered the art of simplifying, and I'm following a lot of those people. And that's really where I hope to get with my sketching, is like saying what I want to say, but saying it with as little as possible, so not overdoing it. This one here is just, I will often use up leftover paint on a page in my sketchbook. And I'm also interested in learning how to make pages work together, how to make a spread work. So it's a double spread when you're not actually doing it at the same time. So for example, what did I do first? I did this sketch first. And this was a vintage photo that we saw in a museum in Alicante in Spain. And I love this sketch. And then I think I had some leftover paint from another session. So I painted this page and then just painted this one swatch of this one woman's skirt. And I think that works quite well to tie those two together. And then I used this page during a workshop for an exercise where we actually look for symbols in our environment, and then we bring those symbols into a large painting on a large canvas. So I think this spread actually works quite beautifully. Again, this was another exercise at a workshop where we use inspiration prompts. I make up inspiration bundles of various images that have nothing to do with each other, and we use them as prompts to create poetry, to create mark making. So these are just all exercises that I do in my in-person workshops. And then this one, I like this spread as well. I think this works well. And this was, again, I had used up leftover paint on both of these pages. Just, you can see, just kind of brought in some brush strokes across the whole page. And then on this one, I've done the kitty. On this one, I've kind of gone over those initial brush strokes, but I'm still retaining enough of the color and the mood to make this a cohesive spread as well. So some of these double spreads I'm really happy with in this book, but then some of them I'm not. So this one, I went a bit crazy with doggos and again, lots of reference photos on Instagram. Just look up dogs, dog breeding, like dog rescue shelters, things like that, and you'll find lots and lots of great photos. And this one I did with mostly inks, a little pencil, and a little bit of marker. And it's hilarious. Like, that is not a Great Dane. And there are some that look more like little, I don't know what they look like. But here this one looks like a little black sheep. But I had fun doing it, and I really liked the way that it turned out. Again, practice, 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 right? That's what it's all about. So we're never going to learn to draw proficiently, or even, I don't want to draw photorealistically. I want to draw with some kind of personality and character. And so that's what I'm looking for. And so I feel like this kind of captures that energy, but I still want to get a little bit better at drawing. Continuous line drawings. This was an exercise in my face, in my Paint Faces with Freedom course, I think, or at least it was practicing for that tutorial for that lesson. And I do this often. I love doing continuous line drawings. I think they're so free and so beautiful, and they really trick our brain into, into coming from the right side rather than the analytical left side. And so, it's a great exercise to do, just some timed continuous line drawings. So that means you're putting your pen on the page and you're not lifting it until you have actually finished. Using up paint. And so this is something that I will often do after a session. Just pull this light in a little bit further, I think. It's getting a bit dark outside. So yeah, using up paint. So if I've actually been having a lovely session on larger pieces, I'll often have paint left over. This one I do believe is also a YouTube video, or maybe it was an exclusive on my Patreon. I'm not sure. This was a spread that didn't work out. There was a face under here in charcoal. There was a face under here in oil pastel. You can see a little bit of the orange oil pastel here, here, here. And I went right over the top of them and used up this leftover paint, but leaving some of the marks from underneath because they add visual interest and they also help to tie the piece together. So I really enjoy doing this kind of thing. And again, that was a timed piece. I think less than 20 minutes. This one, can't remember where I did this one. I obviously found a photo online somewhere in Cornwall, and I think maybe it was a YouTube tutorial, and they were just talking about, like capturing a memory or capturing an image in one color, but then making little notes to yourself so that if you did want to do it as a painting, you would remember this was a stone wall. You would remember that there was some colourful surfboards through here, that the boat was turquoise, etc., etc. So that if I wanted to reproduce it in some way, I could. And I think that often it works really well if you're trying to paint in a way that is less representational, more painterly, more free, more expressive, sometimes it's better to do a sketch first like this, and then rather than work from the photo for your painting, to actually do your painting from the sketch that you've made. It's one step removed, and it helps your brain to kind of let go of all of the detail and just, kind of let loose, just kind of look for the dominant shapes, look for some mark making and emulate that when you work on a bigger piece. Continuous line drawing just in felt marker. And this was a fun little class, I believe. Okay, it was Melissa Lakey, Lakey, who is a beautiful artist. And I think the class was on Etcher. And so it wasn't expensive, and she really laid it out well. And so this was all about, doing a travel spread and having multiple images across your spread so that everything works well together, having the distance view, having front-on views, having side views, and then taking small elements and cropped elements of the whole scene and adding those in as well. And of course, working in a limited color palette so that it all works together. So, really interested in learning all of these different ways of bringing a sketchbook together, because we do a lot of travel, and as I said, I just haven't yet got into the habit, or I haven't got the confidence to bring a sketchbook along, and even to know what to take with me. I'm starting to get better at that after a trip that I did to Vietnam in January, and coming up, I will share a video with you about the things that I'm going to take with us to Europe in July. This was done 29th of the 12th, 2022, 6 days after I had a skin cancer, a squamous cell carcinoma removed from my finger here. And she did a great job taking a skin graft from my tummy, and it's all good as new, and there was no trace of cancer after it. But anyway, for a few weeks, a couple of weeks maybe, had my right hand kind of bandaged up, and I couldn't really do anything with it. So I was doing non-dominant hand contour drawing. So this is our cat Rumi out on the front deck. But again, deliberately working with your non-dominant hand is a fabulous way to loosen up, and you get some really interesting things happen. So that's kind of fun. This one, my attempt again at making a cohesive spread. This is from an image, a photo that I took in Istanbul, I believe in 2019. And I've had it on my inspiration wall since that time, and I've so wanted to paint it. But I thought I would start with a sketch because I've got a bit of resistance towards perspective. It feels too hard. It feels too overwhelming for my ADHD brain. And it just, it's like there's a lot to notice. And so this again is my, one of the reasons that I want to learn to simplify in the sketchbook. So I thought I would just start with a black, I'm just trying to see where that marker is. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like an ink pen. I've only used it a couple of times, but it's, again, it lends itself to beautiful fluid lines. I think I did okay, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. But it did get me at least over the fear of giving it a go. And then I thought, because this page was so busy, this page I wanted to kind of keep a little more simple. And I think that works really well with the girl with the chicken, which looks more like an oversized pigeon. But anyway, the pages work well together. This was our little granddaughter, Nora. And I did this sketch in March of 2023. We've since had another little granddaughter, Maya, so now we have two beautiful girls. And this is her sitting on a big sheet of watercolor paper in our lounge room. And we have these drawing sessions together where we both add things to the big sheet of paper. And sometimes, it ends up just a big page of me drawing things and her scribbling and her, and then a lot of times I'll use those sheets as underpaintings for works that I will go on to do. So it's a really fun thing that we love to do together. And this is a beautiful, gentle sketch. I really like this as well. Again, so a magazine image that I just had a go at, and then I was playing around with monoprinting using transparency papers. And so this was a monoprint of a cat in Istanbul, a photo that I took in a store. Cats are allowed to just roam the city. You'll find them in store windows, lying on cushions, and people just look after them. They look after the street cats there. You'll often see little houses and food left outside in the streets for all of the kitties. And so this little guy he just owned the front window of the store. I didn't feel like the monoprint was super successful, so I did a bit of continuous line drawing over the top. This page, just a bunch of exploration. I was at a Jenny Grant workshop. She's my dear friend from Sweden. She came, I hosted her here in Australia, and we were collaging large works and then doing faces on them. So I just decided to play with some of the techniques, but kind of in my own colors on this page, so that I was using some of those hand-painted papers as well. Maybe I'll come back in and do something over the top of them. Maybe I'll just leave it as is. And again, practicing faces. I think I was mostly using paint and these Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s on this one, a little bit of charcoal as well. So there's a lot of just exploring different mediums and then seeing what works with what. For example, how beautiful does this color, I think it's that color there, periwinkle blue, how beautiful does that look over that kind of mixture of, I believe that would be Nicoleso gold and magenta from the golden range, and this just looks amazing, right? So this is your place to play and explore and see what happens. All right. Next page, again, just play. And again, this came out of Jenny's workshop, nothing to do with what she was teaching, but it was just me having a million things going on at the same time. And while I was waiting for other things to dry, I was collaging into my sketchbook and bringing in some of the things that I normally work with, the florals and the little owl. Again, it's probably not as finished as it could be, but I don't think you have to finish things in your sketchbook. I think that you can just play in your sketchbook and just leave things as they are and just have learned something from whatever you did. This one was a YouTube video tutorial just using the acrylic inks to create a little page of butterflies and flowers. And I think I had influence or inspiration from I'm just trying to think probably from Carolyn Gavin on Instagram, maybe a little bit of, maybe I've seen August Wren maybe also do some little kind of butterflies and flowers similar to this. So that was that one, using up leftover paint as well. I love this page. I really love this page. This was just, I've got a whole folder on Pinterest called Nostalgia, and I love to collect all of those old black and white photos from all over the place, and so I believe this was like women in a village in Portugal, maybe in the 1950s. And I, again, had leftover paint is the best thing, right? Because you've got to use it up. It's usually the end of the day and you want to use it up quickly. And so put a timer on, grab something out, and then just go for it. So this was the palette I had been using on that day. I just had a little bit of those leftover teals and green and blue and Payne's grey, a little bit of white, and that's all I used. Maybe the Nicoleso gold as well. So I did a quick little swatch over here of what I had left on my palette and what the range was that I could get from those colors. And then I just went for it, and this was so quick, and I love the freedom of it. I love the spontaneity of it. I don't think it needs anything else. That's how I actually would like to work in my sketchbook. Like when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's how I want my sketches to be. And that's kind of how I want my paintings to be too in some way. So yeah, and then this was actually empty because I had just done these little swatches here. And so on another day, I just did this little kitty playing with the Caran d'Ache crayons in the same color palette, so that tied the whole thing together. So I think I'm not as doing as bad as I thought I was, right? I think there are a few pages in here that work really well together. And then come to the last page, and I attempted a little painting of my daughter Santana with both of the girls. Nora and Maya is here in the baby wrap, and I it's okay. It's okay. I didn't manage this, but I think what it was harder working with a family member, because this one, they didn't even have faces. It didn't even matter. This one, I was trying to make it look like Santana and Nora. And so I think in that trying too hard, and then I began to kind of rush, or what I'm trying to say? I guess I began to try too hard to make it spontaneous and playful, when I probably had already overworked it. Her face, I've actually redone some of her face because it looked nothing like her. I sent it to her and she burst out laughing. And she's like, what did you do to my face? And then so I came back in and reworked her face. But, it's hard. Once you've reworked something and you were after something more spontaneous, and you've had to work too hard and go overboard with it, then, it's just a lesson, really. It's just like, okay, that one didn't work. That one did. There are some things I like about this, but it's not what I was trying to achieve. So that's my first sketchbook tour, the first sketchbook that I have ever completed, even though I have been painting for almost 25 years now. I'm really proud of myself that I've finished a sketchbook, and I can't wait to finish the next one, and I will be sharing that journey with you and any other works that I do in my sketchbook over the next couple of months before we go to Europe. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please ask any questions that you have below on any of the materials that I use, or what my favorite materials are. Happy to share them with you. And if you want a more in-depth look into my work, my process, I have a Patreon community also that you can come on over and join, and I do exclusive tutorials there, monthly chats, monthly YouTube lives, and prompts and all kinds of extras in my Patreon community. So we'd love to see you there as well. Anyway, that's it for now. See you next time.